Hi, welcome back to English 102 Composition 2. In today's video, we're going to model strategies for further developing your thesis by further developing the meaning of a quote. This process is called explication. What it does is it adds depth of analysis to your paper, which is one of the fundamental goals of writing an argumentative essay. The purpose of explicating or developing the significance of any primary or secondary source quote is to further develop your thesis, to add depth of analysis to your argument, and to instill a little, quote, play of mind, unquote, into your writing. Though the most significant part of the quoting process, this is, alas, the most often neglected. Integrating quotes into your text follows a three-step process. First, introduce the quote in your own words. In other words, as so-and-so observes. Second, cite the quote word for word with proper parenthetical page reference. And third and finally, explicate the significance or further develop the meaning of the quote or its relevance to your thesis. Unfortunately, the novice writer all too often stops after the second step, merely with the quote, thereby omitting the most important phase of the process and the deepest means of developing a thesis. On the other hand, by explicating the hidden meanings of a given quote, your writing will acquire that depth of analysis, which is the foremost virtue, if not the raison d'etre of any academic paper. To break the habit of superficial engagement with a quote, of merely integrating it into your text and then moving on to the next quote, begin the sentence immediately following the quote with the following phrase. This quote is significant because. This is particularly useful, if not essential, after a block quote, which, if important enough to be quoted at length in the first place, usually contains meanings that invite, if not insist upon, a further comment. So get in the habit of writing right after you've quoted something, of beginning the next sentence with these words, this is significant because, or this quote is significant because. Not every quote will lend itself to this kind of explication, but if you look, you will find ones that do. And even if you can only do this several points in your paper, it will deepen the overall analysis of that paper, which is your goal. In your journal, make an entry in which you integrate a quote into your own words with proper attribution. Hopefully choose one that you want to use in your term paper to kill two birds with one stone. Then begin the next sentence after the quote with these words. This quote is significant because. And go ahead and complete the sentence, looking for ways to tie the quote to your thesis, to assess what it adds to an argument, what it reveals about a character, how it develops a central theme, or relates to previous passages or anticipates others. Follow the same procedure with a block quote, beginning the first sentence after you have integrated it into your own text with the words, this is significant because. Hopefully you can find a block quote that relates to your term paper, again, by way of killing two birds with one stone. What might this process look like in action? The following explication of a passage from Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet is illustrative of this process. Juliet's Act 3 address to the knight in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet is a useful passage to model development through depth analysis, or play of mind through explication of a quote. This passage so deeply informs her character and the drama's central themes that it invites and rewards a closer reading. Gallop apace, you fiery-footed steeds, toward Phoebus' lodging, and bring in cloudy night immediately, that runaway eyes may wink, and Romeo leap to these arms. Come, civil knight, thou sober-suited matron all in black, hood my unmanned blood, beating in my cheeks with thy black mantle, till strange love grows bold. Come, gentle knight, come, loving, black-browed knight, give me my Romeo. And when I shall die, take him and cut him out in little stars, and he will make the face of heaven so fine that all the world would be in love with night. A passage like this is so rife with significance, an entire paper could be written on it alone. A series of rhetorical questions prompt and guide the writer's response to the text. Begin by asking yourself the following. What does this passage reveal about Juliet's character? How does it reinforce the play's major themes or develop its central conflicts? How does the imagery inform the meaning of the passage and the drama in general? By developing a simple series of questions to pose to any text or any quote from a text, you are learning how to guide your analysis into the depths where it needs to go. Think of yourself as a lawyer who's interrogating a witness on the witness stand in order to draw the truth out of them. That lawyer will come prepared to that cross-examination with a whole list of questions. You should do the same. And the art of writing really begins with the art of questioning, of knowing what questions to ask of a text. The good news is that those questions will largely remain the same from one text to another. Let's begin with the middle question first. A brief analysis of Juliet's words reveals how Shakespeare reinforces the plot's central theme through speech. Gallop apace, whip you, immediately, and leap to these arms all develop the theme that haste makes waste. Critics have correctly cited the lover's amorous hastiness as her tragic flaw. Here, Juliet's words give voice to that heedless and headlong pursuit of passion, come what may. So don't just stop after you've quoted something and go on to the next quote. Stop and go back and give it a second look and read and write between the lines as it were. Try to tease out some additional hidden meanings from those words. This will then add depth to your analysis. Shakespeare's imagery similarly reinforces the primacy of passion's speed. For example, he compares Juliet's desire to fiery-footed steeds and to Phaeton, the wagoner who would whip you to the west. The hot immediacy of a desire that will brook no delay is similarly suggested by the blood beating in my cheek. What then is the significance of Juliet's words in Shakespeare's imagery? Shakespeare's dark and deterministic imagery not only unifies this passage, but also deeply informs the play's central theme, that romantic haste makes waste. The images of night serve a dual dramatic function. They allude not only to a night that will provide a cover for the lovers' intimacies, but foreshadow their tragic end by previewing that night into which their love will blindly lead them. The image of the West is steeped in this duality, not only as a herald of the night that will unite them in love, but as a harbinger of the night that will unite them eternally in death. Curtain similarly gestures toward an imminent intimacy as well as toward the final curtain of life. Again, this is a mode of development that can be honed with practice by free writing in response to quotes in a reader response journal. By keeping such a journal, the academic writer can get a jump on the writing process, excavating text for their deeper grammar, taking these practice swings at explication. This technique of analysis can apply to any text upon whose latent and multiple meanings rhetorical questions are brought to bear as a springboard into a deeper analytical engagement with it. What is it leaving out? What are the limitations to the argument it's making? What are its contradictions? How does its figurative language reinforce its claims? On what underlying assumptions is it based? How does it resonate with other passages, other texts? What interpretations or arguments has it overlooked? What does it contribute to the ongoing debate? Familiarity with these rhetorical strategies of persuasion will enable the novice academic writer to give a thesis-driven argument the development and organization, the substance and the clarity, the emphasis and the depth it deserves and indeed demands. So instead of just rushing from one quote to the next, take a moment and pause and look back at that quote and see if you can tease out additional meanings from between the lines. By beginning with the words, this quote is significant because. If you do this and that you are vigilant for these opportunities, you will find quotes that lend themselves to further explication. And trust me, if your writing then has this extra depth of analysis to it, it will stand out from other essays that do not. The whole point of writing a paper is to bring your mind into play, is to show play of mind, is to show your mind interpreting the words of another. By going back and interpreting the words that you've quoted, you will bring your own mind into play in the process of analysis and add depth to your analysis, which is the whole purpose of your paper. Thank you very much. Next time we'll talk about some strategies for integrating quotes into your body. Thank you very much.